So, guys, after a quick rebound in the fourth round, the Colts have selected another defensive lineman. And again, I'm going to miss this name so bad. And I'm sure at some point he is going to tell us exactly how you say it. So don't crucify me for doing it. But Adebawore is the last name, the defensive tackle out of Northwestern. A guy that has played both. He's played defensive tackle and edge out of Northwestern. Actually was the name, one of the names at the combine that you would probably remember because he ran the fastest 40 time of any player over 280 pounds in the last 16 years, guys. So this is a insanely athletic kid. 6'2", 282 pounds, so relatively undersized when you look at defensive tackles, Cody. But again, another kid who had a 9.7 RAS score, so another athlete.
Yeah, and you talk about it. He obviously, the Colts fell in love with him, in the pre-draft process and stuff like that. At the Senior Bowl, I think is where they said that he kind of felt like he was on the Colts' radar. Now, where does the fit go? I think he has said when he's talking to the media, he sees himself more as like a 3-tech type of guy. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that's kind of the role, kind of that backup to Buckner. Obviously, the Colts did sign Taven Bryant in the offseason, so we'll see kind of how that does play out. But, man, the Colts just keep adding more talent and more athletic traits on their defensive line, giving Nate Ollie some more, work here, some more guys to work with here. And, really the big thing, like everything else except for really the height, the weight, and I think it was the bench press, everything else is elite.
Yeah,
in terms of traits. Everything.
Explosive. And on top of it, and that's explosive at defensive tackle is huge. You want something like that. If you don't have the size, you want the athletics to be there to help balance that. And he's got explosion everywhere. And not to mention, apparently, his hands, he's got 10.5-inch hands.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest hands in the entire draft class. So, in that situation, he is relatively strong. Despite not having the bench press, he does have relatively good upper body strength. It just seems to me like the kind of guy that, for third down rush situations, if you're going to have somebody up defensive tackle that you want in there, that with him and DeForest Buckner, I could see that being the case for him. He's not going to be a prototypical run stopper. He's not going to be a 3-down guy, but right. I could definitely see this guy as an explosive guy for pass rush. And it's just one of those situations, guys. Another one where Indy said this guy was projected to go in the late second round, and taking him early fourth, just seemed like a no-brainer there.
Absolutely. And you don't really, compared to where you were last year, you have majorly upgraded the depth and that interior defensive line. And you just add another guy here. Obviously, you already have your 2 starters in the interior, but you add another guy here that you think can give you some nice, rotation here. A guy who's got all those athletic traits. And I think it's a good pick here. The Colts just add some more competition in there. And, a lot of people thought he was going to go a lot earlier than where he did get picked here in the round 4. But I do think overall it was a guy with a lot of high upside, with a lot of traits the Colts like. And Derek, I think their average RAS score right now between all their picks is a 9.71, which is just crazy considering it. This is not, this is very typical for Ballard, especially what we saw from him last year as well. The Colts continue to add guys with traits, continue to add guys that they feel like need to be developed, and they feel like they have the coaches to do that and get these guys ready to go. And so overall, I think it was a pick that we knew Ballard he had to take a defensive end. He talked about how deep this edge class was, right? In his pre-draft presser when people asked him about some of those positions. So I always had that feeling in the back of my mind, man, that defensive end, edge rusher, defensive line somewhere was going to be a pick here for Indianapolis. And Chris Ballard pulls the trigger here in round 4, the second fourth-round pick the Colts had. They obviously already had one. They brought in Blake Freeland, the tackle from BYU. So the Colts add some more beef to that defensive line, and now the Colts have gone back-to-back picks on the line, one on offense, one on defense. So I think it was a good pick overall. It was a guy that Ballard even talked about in his presser last night, he said, you take the guy that you have the highest rated on the board. Doesn't necessarily have to be a need. And I always had the feeling that if a guy like him was sitting there, the Colts would take him based off of how their board ranked, not necessarily the positions of need.
Yep, that is a typical Colts thing to do. And we're talking about average with a 9.71. The only reason why it's even that low is just because of Josh Downs. And the only reason it's that low is because of his height. It's not even about his athleticism. So technically, if you're taking it off on an athleticism standpoint, your average right now for Indy is more like a 9.85 right now. So they're like really getting at these athletes right now. And like you said, this was definitely not a need for the Indianapolis Colts in any way, but it was, that type of pick where you said best player available. That's where we had, and we can see a spot on this team with him. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what the newest Colts defensive lineman does in this room. Colts continue to add talent there. Let us know, guys, your thoughts overall on the Colts' first defensive line player they took here. And do you like this pick? Do you not like this pick? Let us know all those things in the comments below. Thanks, guys.